today we've got a special show for you as we go in search of waterfalls in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. We're going up now. We've done most of the waterfalls in the UP over the years, but this time we're doing it all in high definition. We're going to be looking at some that are better known and some of the least known too. It's going to be a great show. If you love waterfalls, you're going to love this show. Let's get it started. When we decided on this epic trip across the UP, we knew that to get to all the waterfalls that were on our list, we were going to have to plan for a lot of places to stay. We started by looking at the motels along the way. Well, that didn't work because of all the loading and unloading. So our next idea was camping. But that wasn't going to work either for a host of reasons, from charging batteries to keeping warm, which was at the top of my list. Then Denny said, "Hey, I have a good friend at General RV. Maybe he'll let us use one for the next couple of weeks." So we went over and we talked to Jake Brown. Jake was able to work it out that if we paid for the insurance and brought it back clean and filled with gas, they said okay. John Belize, the director of marketing and advertising, commented, "We always like helping out PBS."
Jake taught them everything that they needed to know for spending 2 weeks on the road. When they were done, they thanked Jake for the training, and they were ready to roll. Now it was time to start this incredible UP waterfall journey. So join us for a trip to remember. The guys have crossed the bridge many times before, in every kind of weather imaginable, from high winds that literally blew the canoe off the top of their truck to being stuck at the top when a tornado came through. This time was different though. Maybe the anticipation of a whole new adventure made it seem like kids at Christmas in anticipation of what's to come. Heading west down US 2 until they got to Manistee, which is 88 miles west of the bridge, where they would stop and stay at Indian Lake State Park. We pulled into the park on a beautiful autumn evening. Thinking this was a sign of days to come, Tom and Denny's thoughts turned to beautiful days and firelit nights. The evening was calm, with folks building fires and walking their dogs and just happy to be in Michigan's UP. As the fall sun was going down in the southwest, the guys decided to call it a night and get ready for an early rise to continue their trip. Well, they got up bright and early as planned and headed west down to a great array of beautiful colors. Finally, they arrived at their first waterfalls, Boney Falls. It's not as mighty as the rest and is actually pretty small, but they thought this would be a great one to begin this waterfall discovery. This scenic, forested impoundment on the ESCANABA River offers beautiful scenery and good wildlife viewing. It was more of a dam and rapids than it was a regular waterfall.
Here now we're on the ESCANABA River. We came out of Gladstone off of US 2. We worked our way back maybe 10, 12 miles from Gladstone back here to the river itself. There are some hydroelectric dams along here. There's also some waterfalls that we came back to look at. We got to one here. It's a kind of unique waterfall, and it's right next to the dam itself. So it was interesting to look at. And as you can see down this way, we've got the rapids going along the river itself. Beautiful little spot, little kind of a canyon area. You can see the cliffs going along the side in some places. So it's a nice little spot to come back here and just take a break and look at the water.
Being so far back in the bush made it a worthwhile stop. Denny might not feel that way though. As he was climbing up the slippery rocks, he slipped and went flying backwards and broke 3 ribs. Ouch! But he did manage to keep the camera and drone on his chest, so they weren't damaged. How did you guys feel watching Denny fall? Staying on US 2, heading west until they came to the town of Norway, located just south of town along the MENOMINEE River, is the Piers Gorge. Although not your typical UP waterfall, we think a visit to the Piers Gorge is something you'll be glad you did. Nick Roberts with Wildman Adventures in Wisconsin would be our guide on our tour of the gorge.
Well, Nick Burns, a little further up the river, we're now at the beginning of the rapids themselves, and you mentioned that this is the big one, this is the Class 4.
It is, yeah. If you look behind us, you can kind of see it through the tree line. This is Michigan Falls.
Okay. You know, we're going along here, we're talking about Piers Gorge. Where did it all come from? Where did the name come from?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So the Menominee River used to be one of the main ways to transport lumber. Back in the big logging heydays.
Yeah.
Right. So Piers Gorge got its name because in 4 different spots along the rapid section here, there were piers that extended out across the river. Right. So if there were log jams within this particular stretch, longshoremen would go out and be able to undo those jams. Right? It's a very, very harrowing task.
I bet it is, you know, and I know a lot of the calmer rivers that would get jammed up, they go right out on the logs, but you couldn't do something like that here.
Oh, no, not here. Yeah, there was even times where they would just throw out sticks of dynamite to try and blast it because it was too hard to go out there on the piers and to unjam themselves.
Okay, and that's kind of exciting river that this is.
While Piers Gorge is listed as having 3 or 4 named waterfalls, the entire gorge area itself becomes a raging, swollen flood of water. The speed and power of the water rushing by is an awe-inspiring sight and must be seen to be believed. During the visit, we found several exciting vantage points along the gorge rim to view the roiling water, as well as a fine view of the neighboring state of Wisconsin. Watching this canoe-crushing deluge of white water explode made it easy to see why the early Native Americans portaged their birch bark canoes through this section of the Menominee River. If viewing waterfalls from the comfort of your car is more to your liking, then we have a treat for you. 3.5 miles west of the city of Norway along US 2 is Fumee Falls. This high waterfall seems to have been purposely made for the public's enjoyment. And enjoy them we did when we were there.
And we're passing through the town of Norway. Well, here in Norway is a place called Fumee Falls. It's one of those nice waterfalls here in the UP that's right along the side of the road. You really can't miss it. Beautiful little area. It has a little picnic area down below, and you have the falls. The lower falls is behind the camera right now. This is the upper part of the falls. There's a walkway that will bring you up and around to this area. Just a pretty little spot that you can stop and have a picnic and view the falls and just enjoy your time.
One of the first things you'll notice is that either side of the falls is framed by massive rock outcroppings, stately white pines, and birch trees. Whether seen by car or on foot, Fumee Falls should not be missed. The guys were back on the road again with an overnight stop at Bewabic State Park. It was a beautiful fall day, and the park was aglow with color. It started to rain, but they still enjoyed the view across Fortune Lake. Most of the sites here are large, shaded, and with many wooded buffers to maintain privacy. Fire rings and picnic tables can be found on each site. Most have electricity, and many are RV ready, with water, sewer, and electricity. At night, expect to be able to see a dark, star-filled sky, if weather conditions allow, while you take in the sounds or silence of nature. After getting ready to leave the park, their first stop would be Chicagon Falls. It's just a few miles down the road off US 2 from Bewabic State Park. You'll make a right onto Long Lake Road. From there, it's about 5 miles, but only the first couple of miles are drivable. So they parked the RV in what looked to be a small parking lot on the side of this dirt road. From there, they would hike the rest of the way back about 2 miles. It was a good thing they did, because it had been raining for the last week, and the trail back to the falls was in bad shape.
I don't know if you can tell it now, but we are seeing tire tracks down here. But I gotta believe it's ATVs that are coming through here, because I'll tell you what, this is rough. Now we're into a really rocky spot, but we are getting a lot of washouts down through here that could make it really rough on any vehicle. Fun hike though. As I said before, this is a rough road coming down, and in here you can really see it. I wouldn't even bring a four-wheel drive down here, but it has been a nice hike, and we're going to find out soon whether it's worth it.
You are almost guaranteed to be the only visitors back here, and while there's not much room to explore due to downed trees and branches, there are still some great vantage points. Chicagon Falls is a 20-foot slide falls on the Chicagon River, 5 miles from the little town of Crystal Falls. It's surrounded by forest and is definitely off the beaten path.
We've made it back here to Chicago Falls. We are in Iron County. Now, as we told you on the way back, we were wondering if it'd be worth it or not, but oh my, it is worth it. As you can see, it's coming down, it's going over rocks and debris that's in the river. One stream coming this way, we've got another one over here, just a little one, but it's running fast, coming through the rocks over there. I'll tell you what though, one of the things you want to be extra careful of is walking around out here. Now, we've had rain the last couple of days. We've got rocks, and these rocks are slick. You come out here, you take a fall, it's going to be rough on you. So be really careful when you come out here, but man, is it worth it.
Before heading back to the RV, the guys sat down and took in the splendor of this backwoods beauty.
Over here in Iron County right now, what you see behind me is the Paint River. Paint River runs through Crystal Falls. We're south of there right now along the river itself. We're at a place called the Horserace Rapids. As you can see, it's a very beautiful place. High rocks on the sides here. We got the rapids down in here. Wow, but I'll tell you what, trail's a little rough coming back here. It's all downhill from the parking area. They do have steps set out in some of the spots. Other ones you're on a trail. Sometimes there's a little trickle of water going down that trail, and it can be slippery. So watch yourself going along, wear good foot gear when you come out here, and have some fun and take some pictures.
Walking downstairs to an overlook on a cliff where you can see the rapids in the river below. As you climb down to the rapids, you'll encounter these unusual depressions in the rock, some areas as much as 2 feet deep. The rapids were strong from all the rain through the week, and of course made it that much more spectacular. These rapids are popular with adventurous kayakers and whitewater enthusiasts, and they should be attempted only by the very skilled.
We've been down to the rapids. We're on our way back up now. We're maybe, I don't know, a third of the distance up. As you can see, it goes up a long way. It's a fairly rugged trail. Make sure you're in shape if you come down here and start walking around. But it's a lot of fun.
When it comes to roadside attractions, this is one you're sure to enjoy: the wooden Indian sculpture in Wakefield. Peter Wolfe Toth carved this statue of a Chippewa Indian in 1988 from a single piece of pine donated by the Ottawa National Forest. Nagani Nigabo means leading man in Chippewa. This was the 59th statue on Toth's Trail of Whispering Giants, his project to create an Indian sculpture for all 50 states, which he did from 1971 to 1988. The city of Wakefield is a small community near Lake Superior in the western end of Michigan's Upper Peninsula.
Well, it's cold and windy out here, but that hasn't dampened our spirit any. We're on our waterfall tour. We're headed over to the Black River. Several waterfalls over there that we wanted to look at, but we stopped here in the town of Wakefield on our way just to see the big Indian in the background. We got Sunday Lake out here, and you got beautiful colors. We're ready to get back in the truck. Next time I get out and bring them a glove.
The guys left Wakefield and veered north off US 2 and jumped on M28 to Bruce Crossing and Agate Falls. As they came into Agate Falls' scenic site, I remember the first time they came here 30 years ago with an old friend, Tom Condon. They stopped in for a beer at the saloon on the road before climbing to the bottom, long before a park and steps. All that's left of the old saloon is a rusted-out sign and washed-out parking lot. Without memories, what do we have?
Well, we're now over to Agate Falls. It's pretty easy to find. We are just about 5-6 miles east of Bruce Crossing on Highway 28. You come down the road, there's an actual roadside park here, and so you can pull in. It's nice places to park, and the trailhead starts right here.
While waterfalls of any size can be spellbinding, there are a few of such size as to nearly take your breath away. Such is the size and beauty of Agate Falls, found on the middle branch of the Ontonagon River near Trout Creek. Although the trail to the bottom of Agate Falls is steep at times, the view you'll get from there is simply awe-inspiring. You'll see the 80-foot wide river cascading over a series of rock ledges, creating a nearly perfect chain of continuous mini-falls. The flow of water is so evenly spaced over the black rocks that the entire face of the falls looks like one delicate white lace. At the foot of the falls is a pool where the water slows before continuing downstream. The scale of Agate Falls is one that must be seen to be appreciated, as the quaint railroad trestle high above the falls only begins to hint at its true size.
One of the views that you've got is where we're standing right now. We're on an old railroad bridge that is now a snowmobile trail that crosses over the river itself. You can look down and see the falls below, and of course you can look back, and that's the 28 bridge. The M28 bridge is back there, and it comes down a few stair steps with the main drop being just on the other side here. Great views up in here. I wish we had just a little bit more color because it's great, but you can see a lot of it in the background. It's a beautiful place to go over to. There's also a pathway that goes down a little bit closer to the bottom, but not a great view, not as good as up here.
It was time to head to magnificent Bond Falls. This used to be called Michigan's best-kept secret, but not anymore. The first time the guys were here was in 1996, and there were no steps or fences and no people. But all that has changed. That being said, it's still one of the most beautiful falls in Michigan.
I'm on the Bond Falls River right now, and we're headed down here to see the falls themselves. As we come down, it's kind of a rugged pathway right here, but you're walking right next to the river itself, and you'll notice that there's already several waterfalls that are down here. They're not big, they're only a couple feet, but it's drop, drop, drop until you get to the main falls. But you know what? Best is yet to come.
50 feet of rushing water will rekindle your senses. See its majesty. Listen to falls cascade into the Ontonagon River. Smell the fresh air and let your soul be at one with nature.
Well, this is a beautiful waterfall behind us right now. This is Bond Falls, and it has changed a lot since I was last here. Today we have a good parking area, good road coming in, plus you've got a boardwalk that runs all around this thing. It makes it easy for everyone to get around, and it's a magnificent view. I think you'll agree.
CNN Travel called Bond Falls one of the top 10 most stunning falls in the world. Located in the western UP on Bond Falls Road, east of Paulding, Michigan, this is the most impressive waterfall in Michigan, with the possible exception of Tahquamenon Falls.
What you're looking at behind me here is the river itself, and if you notice in the falls, as it comes over the falls, it's actually split by a big rock outcropping, and it splits it into two streams. They come out down here, and this is the confluence of those two rivers, and it's just a beautiful area, a little more quiet. a nice place to come down here and relax.
The main drop is 40 feet high and 100 feet wide. Above the main falls are a series of cascades and rapids that must drop a total of 20 feet. Like Agate Falls, Bond Falls is also on the middle branch of the Ontonagon River. It tumbles over black rock to give it an almost mystical look. To view the falls, which are actually two distinctly different drops, take the trail on either side of the river downstream to the viewing area. As we head to some of the wilderness waterfalls located on the Black River Scenic Byway and in the Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park, we were sure you would enjoy the fall beauty of Lake of the Clouds. Nestled high in the 58,000 acres of the Porcupine Mountains Wilderness State Park, this beautiful lake is an easy drive, even in an RV.
Oh, here we are, gazing once again into the river valley below. It doesn't matter what the season or the weather, it's all part of the grandeur of the Porcupine Mountains.
There's a spectacular lookout that can be accessed via a short woodland trail or the ADA access trail. Take in the view of Lake of the Clouds hundreds of feet below. If you're a hiker seeking a longer adventure, you'll find over 80 miles of marked hiking trails providing enchanting scenery at every bend. The park's trails skirt 4 selected lakes, waterfalls, and high surrounding peaks. A visitor center off the South Boundary Road provides visitors with complete information about Lake of the Clouds and the park's facilities. Tom and Denny had a lot more to see in the park, so it was time to move on. The guys have traveled here many times, but it's always the first time you remember the most. Here's a very short piece from our archives.
Well, I hope you enjoyed part 1 of our wilderness waterfall tour across Michigan's Upper Peninsula. When we first started this, we only planned on one show, but there's so many beautiful waterfalls across the UP that it's now turned into 2 shows. There might be a 3rd one in the future too. You want more information, you can go to our website, greatgetaways.tv, or our Facebook. Both of them will give you plenty of information. Before we go today though, we want to show you what's coming up next time on our waterfall tour. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. We've come down the Black River National Scenic Byway. As you can see, we've got a little bit of a map here. We've got, at our first stop, we're at Conglomerate Falls, which is, we're headed up the road this way. So we're gonna go back and take a look at that. We got a little bit of a walk to get back to that one. You go up a little further, you got Potawatomi Falls and Gorge Falls, Sandstone Falls, and then Rainbow Falls down by the harbor.
Part is coming up here in the Yellow Dock to see the waterfalls. It's a hike I've been doing for probably 20-25 years now.
We're almost exactly at the top of Brockway Mountain. It's only about 600 feet down the road. We wanted to stop here because, well, we happen to like this view.